give you a warning at 1 minute and 30 seconds. And you can start whenever you're comfortable.
Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon now. I am Laura Stewart, a resident of Regina, Ward 6. Speaking on behalf of the Regina Climate Action Fund, I have with me the fund founder, Laura Stewart, my mother, a resident of Ward 1. Nora established this fund after she found it nearly impossible to make a modest donation to the city to help cut emissions. Nora gives talks to seniors about climate change, and they always ask her, what can we do? It could be quite a project for those seniors to raise the money to buy even one electric bus, and we don't think they should have to. I read through your very reasonable sounding report on transit fleet options. For decades, we have been hearing reasonable arguments for delaying climate action. Now here we are, 7 years after this city set its 2050 net zero target, 10 years after the Paris Agreement, 20 years after the Kyoto Protocol came into force, and 40 years after Carl Sagan testified to a hearing of the US Senate about the greenhouse effect in 1985. Sagan said, because the effects occupy more than a human generation, there is a tendency to say that they are not our problem. Of course, then, they are nobody's problem. And here we are, close to 2 generations later. If humanity had chosen over those 40 years to make very reasonable efforts, global emissions could be at net zero now, and with nature's help, atmospheric CO2 levels could already be trending back down toward pre-industrial levels. Instead, much of humanity entertained reasonable arguments, all while watching atmospheric CO2 rise by 23%. Today, the emissions that produced this rise are themselves still rising. The impacts are starting to bite. Food prices are rising due to climate change. Conflicts are rising due to climate change. With challenges like these, we should not be surprised to see federal programs on pause. We should not be surprised to see public reluctance to pay for climate action. In the big picture, the more the climate changes, the tighter finances will squeeze. And that means, most likely, Regina will never have a stronger economic base for taking action than it has right now. With our Climate Action Fund, we are saying it's time to stop waiting for somebody else to solve this problem. It's time to ask some very tough questions of any reasonable sounding argument for delay. In this spirit, I have some questions for you to consider. I hope you will press for answers to these questions. How would this recommendation affect your readiness to purchase electric buses when new funding opportunities arise? Have you considered that bus refurbishment may be a good option environmentally because it allows you to look again at electrifying those buses within 6 years instead of waiting 17 years, nearly a generation, to do so? Regarding electric buses, the report reminds us to consider emissions from generating the electricity they use. Aren't those emissions Sask Power's problem? Electrifying the fleet, becoming a larger Sask Power customer, should give the city better standing to demand cleaner power. Have you considered the impact on morale as you limit citizens' access to electrified transportation? With this decision, you would be slowing down your corporate emissions cuts. Have you considered how such a slowdown may be mirrored and magnified across the community? Instead of leading by example and sparking interest in electrifying other heavy vehicle fleets, you would send the message that it's too expensive and not urgent. Instead of showing that emissions cuts are underway and sparking interest in being part of that transition, you would take away a program that, as Kike said this morning, offered hope and opening the door to the kind of thinking that says, why should I even try, since others are giving up? With our Climate Action Fund, a handful of Regina grandmothers are working to electrify lawn mowers and leaf blowers, because at this time, that is the work we find within our reach. We ask you to stay the course with Regina's commitment to electrify the bus fleet. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go to questions. I'll remind council that we are talking about the motion for the purchasing of the buses, and we'll try and stay on that topic. So Councilor Mancinelli with questions.
Hi, appreciate your words today. Just looking for a bit of clarity. In your submission or summation, you mentioned refurbishment, I guess to mitigate and to allow not to go to another generation, 17 years, but to use as an intermediary step. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thanks.
Are there any further questions? All right, well, thank you so much for your time and your passion and being here. I'll ask you to return to the gallery.
Could I say a word, please? I don't know whether you used up all 5 minutes. Nobody told you that.
So I'm sorry, it's, the time is, return to the gallery now, procedurally. Thank you so much. We do have one more delegation remotely. John